What's going on, guys? Justin, Cruzin Podcast. Just finished watching episode 5 of WandaVision. Literally, it's 4 in the morning right now. Just finished watching it. I wanted to give you guys just my immediate thoughts on the latest episode. So I'm going to be just really fresh on this one. But I got to say, it was a really great episode. I loved the WandaVision, Wanda and the Vision stuff in her own dome of the world, right? That's been established. But I'm not liking too much the side plot with the FBI and like Rambo and stuff. I feel like I should be liking it, but the second we started finding out all the information about the show, I feel like the dialogue on that side of the story is a little cringy. It's really weird. I want to like these characters, but I feel like they're really cringy. Like I think Rambo's pretty good. I just feel like the writing is off, and the FBI agent from Ant-Man, I feel like his comedy and his dialogue, along with the scientist researcher from Thor, I feel like their dialogue and stuff is really cringy. It's really like odd. But besides that, I'm loving the aspect of Vision trying to figure out and come together with what's going on in Wanda's world, in Scarlet Witch's world. That part of the show I'm loving. But when it goes to the FBI stuff, I'm actually kind of detached. I'm not as interested. The first thing I do want to mention is there's a big cameo in this. So I'm going to give you a spoiler alert now. Quicksilver essentially comes back, but it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver. It's actually Quicksilver from the Fox universe, from those movies, from those X-Men movies. And the show acknowledges that it's not the original Quicksilver from the Marvel universe. The character even says, "Oh, did she recast Pietro?" Right? And I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke or if that was, but the show basically tells you like, yeah, we like brought in this version of Quicksilver. Now, does that mean there's like, are they gonna cross over some of the X-Men characters into the Marvel universe through maybe like a multiverse thing? Because it has been confirmed that Scarlet Witch is coming into she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2, and that's going to tackle the multiverse of madness or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of multiverse stuff in that. So maybe that's how this comes into play. She actually has no idea why he's there or how he's even back. She didn't recognize him at first, but then she understood it, and I found that really interesting. So I think they're going to use this acquisition that they got of Fox to bring in Quicksilver. Maybe they couldn't get back Aaron Taylor Johnson, but then that also would have been confusing because if they're bringing in X-Men characters from the Fox universe, but then they don't want to mix it up. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character died. They used that in the stories, and I feel like now maybe they're using the multiverse to bring in a version of Quicksilver that's not exactly the same Quicksilver that we saw in Marvel, but it's not dismissing him either. It's kind of like weird, but maybe that's what they're going for. I hope we find out more as the show goes on. I thought that it's basically how the show ended. I thought it was a great note to end it on. I'm loving the acting between Vision and Wanda, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen. We're actually getting some tense dialogue and tense acting here, and we don't really get a lot of that in Marvel. It's usually a lot of action, a lot of just quick and ready to go with the plot, but we're actually getting good tense, like good tension, good mystery, and then tense acting and dialogue. And I'm really liking that about this show. It's not action oriented right off the bat. It's actually building up something that I think is going to be really cool. And I know that's one of the complaints with the show right now. It's about how, the show is not progressing. The show's not progressing. It's slow. It's a sitcom. Because each episode throughout the show, it is progressing, right? It started off like those 30s, 40s sitcoms. Now, currently, it went through 70s. Now it's like the 80s, 90s sitcoms. I actually love that aspect of the show progressing through periods of times through the sitcoms. Like, that's kind of like what's going on in her form of reality. I think that's actually pretty great. So I'm not a big fan of Marvel kind of releasing all these things of, oh, but wait until you see the ending, wait until you see, and they're like hinting at big cameos and a big ending and a big this, and it's like kind of not giving it away, but it's kind of ruining the mystery and anticipation for people like us that are actually really engaged in the show. It's kind of like giving us more room to work with instead of actually being completely blind, just because there's people that are impatient or want action right away or something like that. And I actually appreciate that this show and Marvel are going this direction with this show. I'm really liking it so far. I liked episode 4, the whole just build up of how Rambo got to the position she was in with Wanda and how she got thrown out. And we got a lot of backstory, a lot of explanation. But I feel like the show at this point, especially this episode, they're just explaining things so head on that I feel like, at least for me, it's kind of a turn off. It's just very head on. Like if they're talking to us and explaining to us exactly what's going on. And I kind of wish we found things out through Vision as he's stuck. I wish we were kind of figuring it out with him as opposed to just sitting there with weird dialogue with the FBI and they're just kind of explaining everything to us. And the episode 4, I understood it and I was okay with it. But now with episode 5, it seems like that's where we're going, where it's like we're watching Wanda's stuff and then we go to the FBI and it's like this weird, cringy dialogue and it's not very funny. And then they're just explaining to everything to us like head on. And I'm I'm not a big fan of that. That's one part of the show that I'm not really liking right now. But other than that, I think the episode was really good. Again, Wanda and Vision, them going at it, Vision trying to actually starting to figure things out. The tension, I think that's really good. I think the acting is great, and the story with that is good. I wish we were more in that actually, as opposed to I was kind of wishing to see the FBI stuff already, FBI stuff, and then when we got to it, I kind of lost interest. I actually like this mystery and tension within Wanda's world, with Vision figuring everything out, like out his job when his coworker he actually pops him out from the illusion, from the hallucination. He's like going crazy, and then he pops him back in because it was too much. I like that, and we're kind of figuring out with Vision. When we go to the FBI stuff, I feel like it's just them just explaining right to us, like looking right at us and just like explaining what's going on. And the dialogue is weird. It's like two different shows. And I feel like I really like the version with Wanda and that reality. But I do like the aspect of her when she came out with the drone and she destroyed the drone and telling them to stay away and all that. And we're kind of getting like this villainous Scarlet Witch, which I think is really good. And we're actually starting to see how powerful she is. She can control anybody like that. And I think that's pretty awesome. And the Quicksilver thing was huge. That was how they ended the episode. This episode was shot really well. And I think it's written really well. But for the FBI stuff, like the stuff in the current reality that's not Wanda's, it's weird. I'm not liking it too much. Anytime we go to that point, I'm just not engaged. I feel it's just not as interesting. It's cringy. The writing is not as good. I don't know what it is. It's not sharp as opposed to when we're in Wanda's reality. Because even the sitcom stuff is really well done. But then those moments where we have moments that we break Wanda's reality and, when Wanda's friend comes in and she says, "Oh, do you want me to just run that again?" Because Vision said no about her holding the babies. And it kind of breaks that illusion. And then we crack back in. And then she just kind of flows it all through again like if it never happened and tells everyone everything's fine. And Vision is like going crazy because he sees these discrepancies, but she's just dismissing it and then just making everything go back to normal. So I actually think that's really cool. But then when we go to the FBI stuff, it's just them being like, "Oh, well, it's because Wanda is, and they just start explaining it so head on that it's kind of a turnoff. I like figuring it out as we go, like how Vision is. I wish there was more of that in the show. Like if it was actually just that and less of the FBI stuff, even though it's only been like 2 episodes, but so far from what I'm seeing, it's kind of turning me off a little bit. And it seems like it's going to be that back and forth, but I hope we get more of Vision uncovering it with Wanda in her world. And then like some side stuff, not too much of the FBI and that whole side story, because I'm not really liking it too much. But I thought the cameo, if that's the big cameo they're talking about, I thought that was really great. It's basically confirming the Fox characters are coming over to Marvel. How? I don't know. But I think that's pretty great. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much my quick thoughts. I'll probably do another episode with more like in-depth stuff with Josh, because it's like 4 a.m. right now, but I just want to give like my fresh thoughts on it, just because I know it was a pretty big episode and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Till the next one. Goodbye.